The wind carried dust through the quiet main street of Copper Ridge as the sun climbed over the mountains, painting the horizon with streaks of orange and gold. Mary Langford stood beside the old train station, her small leather suitcase at her feet, clutching a worn ticket in her trembling hands. For 10 years she had called this rugged little western town home, but today was supposed to be her last day here. The saloon across the street was still closed. The church bell had not yet rung, and not a single soul knew she was leaving. The town had given her years of struggle, heartbreak, and loneliness after her father's death. Now there was nothing left for her, or so she thought. As the train whistle echoed in the distance, her thoughts drifted to the ranch outside town, the one owned by Daniel Hayes, the quiet cowboy with eyes as deep as the desert sky. He had always been kind to her, helping her fix fences, hauling water when the well ran dry, even showing up at her doorstep with soup when she was too sick to work. But Mary had convinced herself kindness was just pity. After all, what could a strong, respected rancher like him want with a woman who had lost everything? She smiled bitterly and whispered to herself, "It's time to stop dreaming." She turned her head as the sound of horse hooves drew closer. Her heart skipped when she saw him, Daniel, riding fast down the dusty road, his hat low against the sun, his duster flapping behind him. He pulled up sharply in front of her, the horse breathing hard. "Mary," he said, voice rough but urgent, "where do you think you're going?" She looked away. "I'm leaving, Daniel. There's nothing here for me anymore. The ranch sold, the town's changing. I don't belong here." Daniel dismounted and took a slow step forward, his boots crunching the gravel. "You can't just disappear without saying goodbye," he said softly. "You belong more here than anyone I know." Her eyes filled with tears she had sworn she wouldn't shed. "I tried, Daniel. I tried to build something here, but everything I touch falls apart. Maybe somewhere else I can start over." He studied her for a long moment. The silence between them felt heavy, charged with words neither dared to speak. Finally he said, "Maybe you don't need to start over. Maybe you just need someone who won't let you give up." The train's whistle grew louder. She looked down, her hand tightening around the ticket. "You don't mean that," she said. "You've got your ranch, your life. What difference does it make if I stay or go?" Daniel stepped closer, close enough that she could see the dust on his shirt and the sadness in his eyes. "It makes all the difference in the world," he said. "Because you're the reason I come to town. You're the reason that old place of mine feels like home again. Don't leave, Mary. Not like this." Her lips trembled as she met his gaze. The train screeched to a stop behind her, steam billowing into the morning air. "You'll forget me by next week," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "You've been the one thing I never could forget." The conductor called, "All aboard!" and Mary looked between the train and the man in front of her. The weight of every choice she'd ever made pressed down on her chest. Then, before she could stop herself, she turned away from the train. The doors clanged shut behind her as it began to move. Daniel took a cautious step closer. "You're not getting on?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. Mary looked down at the dust swirling around her boots. "Maybe not today," she said softly. Daniel smiled for the first time that morning. "Then maybe I can convince you tomorrow too." And as the train disappeared down the tracks, Mary realized, for the first time in years, she didn't feel like running anymore. 2 weeks later, Copper Ridge was alive again. The annual harvest fair had brought laughter and music back to town, and Mary found herself in the middle of it all, helping children paint pumpkins, serving pies, and even laughing when Daniel's horse tried to eat an apple off her tray. The townsfolk noticed the change in her. The sadness in her eyes had softened, replaced by a quiet spark that Daniel had helped ignite. That evening, as the sun began to dip below the hills, Daniel approached her near the edge of the fairground. The sky was glowing gold, and the music from the fiddlers drifted through the air. "You look happier," he said, leaning against the wooden fence beside her. Mary smiled faintly. "Maybe I am. Maybe it's because someone keeps showing up at my door every morning with excuses to fix things that don't need fixing." Daniel grinned. "If it keeps you here, I'll fix the same fence every day." They both laughed, But the laughter faded as he reached out and gently took her hand. "I meant what I said, Mary, the day you almost left. I've never been more scared in my life. I don't want to watch you walk away again." She turned to face him fully, her heart racing. "And what if one day I do? What if I change my mind?" Daniel's thumb brushed against her knuckles. "Then I'll follow you wherever you go," he said simply. For a long moment neither spoke. The fair sounds faded into the background, replaced by the quiet whisper of the wind and the creak of the fence. Mary looked into his eyes and saw everything she'd been searching for: hope, safety, belonging. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they were from peace, not pain. "You really don't give up easily, do you, Cowboy?" He smiled. "Not when it comes to you." As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky crimson and gold, Daniel pulled her close. The crowd in the distance cheered for some contest, but for them the world had gone still. Mary finally understood. Sometimes the place you think you're running from is where your heart was always meant to stay. And when she looked up at him, she whispered, "I'm not leaving again." Daniel chuckled, softly tipping his hat. "Good," he said, "because I was just about to ask if you'd help me build a new porch swing." Mary laughed, shaking her head. "You really do need me, don't you?" "More than I ever thought I'd need anyone," he said. The two of them stood there, hand in hand, as the stars began to appear over Copper Ridge, a town she once wanted to leave, but now would never let go. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more emotional cowboy and western love stories that remind us all, sometimes love finds us right when we're ready to walk away.